Okay, looks like we are ready to go. Good evening and welcome to the Santa Clara City Planning Commission for Thursday, May 13th, 2021. We will start off with Ryan Anderson and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this opportunity to be here to represent the city and for the well-being of the city. We're so grateful for this area that we live in and for all that we have, and blessed that we'll continue to do good things for this area and make right decisions. We're so grateful for all that we have, and we ask you to help guide us, and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ryan. Okay. Communication from the general citizens. Anybody here that is not on the agenda? This is an empty room for a public hearing night. I guess we'll keep moving. Public hearing number 1 is consider an amended plat for the Hills at Santa Clara Phase 3. It's like Corey's the man.
Yes, so this is a request to amend the Hills at Santa Clara Phase 3 final plat and to allow a merger of combining 2 lots into 1 lot on 3 separate parcels, 3 separate locations within Phase 3 plat.
Hey, stranger.
These lot mergers are requested by the property owner, and the net effect to the numbers of lots in the phase plat will be reduced by 3 lots. Phase 3 will thus have 23 lots instead of 26 lots as present, because the applicant wasn't able to obtain written consent from all property owners, including the mortgage companies. A public hearing is required to approve the request plat amendment. Single family subdivision is located in the R110 RA mixed lot size zone, located south of Santa Clara River, west of the Hills at Santa Clara Phase 1, in the western portion of the city. Subdivision is located on the hillside, which begins just south of the Santa Clara River. All the proposed lots in the phase are larger than 10,000 square feet. It is staff understanding that no easements will be vacated, at least at this time. The applicant is Shook Run LLC, project engineers Adam Allen. Geotechnical is GTS. With the request plat, there will be 23 lots, as I stated. 23 lots, 23 acres in Phase 3. All streets in the subdivision are public streets. Staff recommends approval of the amended final plat. If you want to pull that final plat up, I can show those lots. You see behind you on the big screen here, the lots that are going to be enlarged is this first lot right here. Instead of having 2 lots, it'll be combined into 1 lot.
2 and 303.
Also, this would be, I think, 102, 103. It will be lot 203 now. This one is
You mean 302 and 303?
302 and 303. That's right. And then 19 and 18 right here will be combined into 1. And then I think 223, 224 will be combined into 1. So those are the 3 combination of lots. There's some steep hillsides. There's a no build zone. Between 18 and 19 right along here, that they won't, there's a shaded area. It's hard to see on this. There's also up here
Is that because of the slope?
because of the slope. The lower one doesn't really have those slopes until it gets at the rear. And that's, if you're familiar with the subdivision, that's where the tiered retaining walls are. They're proposing to build a home right here on 18 that'll come off of View Drive right here. Probably a walkout. There is a landscape design on, you want to go to that landscape design on that they submitted. So this is the road will come off and they'll do a walkout here, combining these two lots. They will landscape this and put retaining walls along here. There's some miscellaneous, you can scroll through those pictures if you want, pull them up so they can see what the, this is going up the road where they'll be taking off for their driveway. This is the 1819 lot area right here. Here's the cul-de-sac. They'll be putting substantial fill in here, of course, for these retaining walls to build this lot up. This is about where they want the roadway for the driveway to walk out structure. This is up above on the 23, the lot 23 that they're combining. This shows you the front property peg at the front of the street down here at the bottom. It's quite a large fill area. They will be wanting to get some retaining walls along the side to make this lot into two. This is looking back down the hill in front of that upper lot. You can see the retaining walls that are existing. They're uniform and the same throughout the whole subdivision. That's one of the requirements of the original phase 3, that when the retaining walls went in, they were all the same. This is standing on that lower 18 lot, and you can see that there's quite a elevation change up to that upper road. So like this area up here is no build, it's already graded to the no build area. This is the rear of the very top lot, the 223 looking west. And
So on that last one, Corey, if we scroll back down, the pad will be built up on top of that and it'll be
No.
walkout?
no, this is the cul-de-sac right here on the lower portion.
Okay,
Yeah, so this will be the retaining walls. They're gonna fill this and there's gonna be a home up here.
okay.
This is the upper lot again, where 223 is. It's just showing the back where it backs against the wash. And this is a view from the other side of it, looking to the west. Another picture of the front stake at the very top lot, looking back to the wash. This is looking at the upper lot where they plan on putting the retaining wall. The last picture I was showing you was up here, looking to the back of the lot. This is where retaining walls will go to complete the leveling of this lot. It'll go in tiers. I think they're proposing 2 tiers on this one.
So where exactly is that one? That last one?
So this one right here is 2 lots that they're combining. I was showing you that. I was showing you right here. Right here's where they would be retaining this lot here. Now, I believe Lance Rigby's interested in this lot, and I think he's going to come to I think he came to TRC, and there's an outcropping right here that he wants to maybe go back to Hillside and cut in, put a retaining wall there. But this one right now is, requesting to combine these two lots. There's no utilities in the area. They will be putting a retaining wall here and here. Back again on 18, 19, the retaining wall would come around here, as you've seen on the landscape drawing along there. The driveway they're proposing is coming off here. And the one down at the bottom is just a straight shot. It's level pad between the two lots.
So I'm just having a hard time understanding that last picture. If you're digging a big trench through and maybe this was natural. Is this natural on the left-hand side?
So this is the upper lot that Lance wants to
Right.
purchase.
Okay.
They're going to put a retaining wall in here and fill this in so that he can actually build a
So was
house
that
up here.
that was just a ravine then?
Is that an existing ravine? Is that an existing ravine?
And that's gonna be the
Oh, I
footing
know,
for the
but-
retaining wall for the upper side.
Well, They've
The
just
other side is
excavated the
just
footing.
So the wash, the natural wash is toward the rear.
That's my-
This is looking down the lot line where they're proposing to build these two retaining walls.
Tell where he was at, standing.
They'll take this will be fill that will be removed.
Oh, okay. So on the right side, all the material on the right is going to be removed
Yeah,
and
to make
pushed
a
over on
level
the
lot.
next, on to level the lot okay.
Yeah.
That, now I understand. That makes more sense to me. A lot of movement of earth,
Yeah, there's a lot of earth movement. So
rock moving.
now we've let the developer and the owner know that on 223, that upper, there's a no build zone toward the rear. They wanted to raise that rear corner on that lot 40 feet. But they're in a no build, so they would have to go back to Hillside also if when they sell this lot, the owner wants to go ahead and go to that expense of making that lot deeper, he'll have to go back to Hillside to get approval and show us how he's going to retain that. And so he's aware of that.
250 feet deep right now.
But for this,
Other than that.
for this request, we're just asking for the 3 lot combinations. That's all I had, unless I had any questions.
So is this individual like private buyers or is this the developer that's asking for this?
The developer is requesting the combination of the lots because of
Buyers want
buyers
bigger
wanting-
lots.
Actually, the subdivision is recorded. He recorded prior to all the improvements going in, so he
Mhm.
can actively sell these lots. But as he's doing that, the request came for a bigger lot. They didn't want this single. They wanted this whole thing, so.
Okay.
This one was sort of difficult to build on because of the radius and the cul-de-sac, and they wanted to face the house onto the street this way, instead of the cul-de-sac, so they can get a walkout.
Okay. That's it for me. I think that's it. Any other questions? Okay. Then let's bump down to general business real
Did
quick.
we,
Do we have any write-in
public hearing,
Oh,
open it?
emails?
I guess we should probably open the public hearing before I get crazy. I just expected more people here. So with that, the public hearing is open. Step up. Tell us your name and what you have to say about this property.
I'm kind of hesitant to get up because some of you know me too well. So
I'll be nice, coach.
it's good to see everybody. I'm tied into this a little bit with the hills, and I just wanted to. I think I heard what I wanted to hear in reference to. You mentioned that those lots have been recorded. Then.
Yes.
When were they recorded? Is if that's public information that I could get.
Do you know when the Hills of Santa
It
Clara
was quite a
Phase
while
3 was
ago.
recorded? August of 2020.
August. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. And have they given you any kind of deadline on when they plan to have those lots completed, when this work's to be done, completed?
They haven't. They have had some difficulties with their subdivision contractor, I understand, and they've switched contractors now. It was going way too slow. And they have a new contractor on board, but they don't have a completion date.
Okay. Have they
I'm-
given you any kind of an estimate on it?
They haven't.
You don't know for sure, huh?
I know that there's several builders looking at
Okay.
property there,
Yeah,
and plans are in to architects and engineers for homes there. So the builder, is going to move as quick as the contractor that he's got
Sure.
now in place.
okay.
Yeah.
On that east side where they've closed the road there, I'm just curious what's happening up on that side now that would be east of that phase 3.
East of phase 3,
Uh-huh.
where they've closed the road, you mean the water line?
Yeah, is that what's happening? Is the water lines going in right there?
Yes, they're putting a new water line up to
Okay.
the South Hills tank.
And with the planning commission, is the eventual decision to develop that up in there now that that's kind of broken through? And so we would be talking east of there.
So a
is-
lot of that property there is BLM property.
Oh, okay,
So everything, when you see that subdivision plat, everything to the west of phase 3 is BLM,
that's BLM then.
and everything to the north is BLM.
Everything north,
Uh-huh.
okay,
And so there's some other property
South.
to the west.
To the
That's
south.
private,
To the
to the
south.
south.
and to the south, yeah. That
Oh, I'm
makes
sorry,
sense.
yeah, to the south, not to the north.
Okay, okay,
So the valley has, farmland,
sure, oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
but you have Gooblers to the west, and then you have, I'm not sure. I think Patrick Manning
Yeah.
owns the property south of Clary Hills at Gates Lane.
okay,
And then the property heading up Gates Lane as you make the bend is BLM land.
that's
or
BLM,
Still BLM. The city has a 50-acre AP parks area up there above the water tank
okay,
that they're going to be developing. City has the right to put the water tank there in that area. And what the work you're seeing there and why the road's closed is because they're putting a loop to balance the valley from that tank and the tanks that we have. And also to supply the edge of Grand Desert has a preliminary plat further to the west of Sycamores.
uh-huh,
Yeah. So
okay.
that's the
Okay.
purpose of all that.
That makes sense then. So just for the record, my name is Jim Johnson, and just so, there's a written record of this and that I've asked these questions about the Hills Phase 3. I have a vested interest in that and just want to make sure that things are moving along. It seems to have slowed down an awful lot. And so you've explained some things that have been helpful for me. So. Yeah, I actually live in Cedar City right now. But it's 533 West, 1380 South in Cedar City. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Good to see you.
Thank you. Should we wait and see if anybody else comes in? I'm just kidding.
I think you met the obligation of
Is-
5:30.
Yeah. Is there any online comments?
Next to it. in that phase
None. Okay. Then let's move down to the general business and talk about a recommendation to city council for amending this plat.
So we do have the
Nope.
engineer, if you want to hear from him.
I don't have any questions.
I think you answered
I
the
don't think-
question.
It's a pretty easy one.
Gotta make him
least
talk, but nah.
Okay, then I'm ready when you are.
Why are you looking at me?
So what's, I can't even think of the word. What am I supposed to?
You're going to make a
Make a
recommendation.
recommendation, yeah.
Mhm.
So I make a recommendation. I move to recommend to city council that we approve them, or they approve the amended final plat for the Hills at Santa Clara Phase 3, combining these 6 lots into the 3 lots as Corey has explained it to us.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right. I've got a,
James Call.
James Call.
I just forgot your name. I got a first from James and a second from Marv.
As old as I am, Mark.
I'm sorry, you should show up more often.
I'm glad somebody else.
I have a first from James and a second from Marv. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sorry, James.
That's okay. My wife told me I had to come in person or else you'd forget who I was anyway, so she was right. Again.
Smart woman.
They usually are.
All right, then let's go back up to public hearing number 2 on the agenda. And this is to consider approval of the project plan for the point at Entrada.
Okay, now this public hearing on the project plan, and as you might remember, project plan consists of a site plan and the building elevations. And you can see the applicants have provided a lot of exhibits here. Mr. Jim Peterson is here. He's one of the partners in this project, and we're going to ask Jim in a minute to kind of go through those different building elevations since he's familiar with it. And in fact, we have down here, we haven't got them all shown. The materials board. On the Zoom, we will also have the project engineer and apparently a representative from Hales Engineering, who did the traffic study for the project. So they're available by Zoom. The zoning on this property is PD residential, and assisted living is listed as a permitted use in the zone. So the use is permitted, and what we're doing is having a public hearing on the site plan and the elevation drawings. The property is 23.6 acres total. The project proposes 158 total units on this 23-acre plus site. And let me just quickly summarize what the units consist of. There is in this site plan, can you see that okay? And in fact, Christelle, if you can pull up the site plan, but this central building is what they call the assisted living center. And this is a 2-story building. All the other buildings on site are single level. This is 2 levels, and there is 100 units proposed in this 2-story, and that consists of 54 independent living units and 46 assisted living units, which includes 14 memory care within that 46 assisted living. So there are also 43 single-family detached homes, which are for seniors, but other than that, they are standard dwelling units, and they meet the city code just with the 2-car garages. They have 20-foot driveways. So there's 43, you can see these 2 on the end, 43 single-family detached homes, plus there are 5 3-plexes here also for independent living. So grand total, that comes to the 158 total units on the site. They meet this city parking code. Let me just try and quickly cover the parking. The city parking ordinance has a reference called nursing homes, and that's the closest category we have for these assisted living centers, nursing homes. And that parking requirement is 4 spaces plus 1 space for each 3 beds. And So the assisted living and memory care and all that would fall under that nursing home. Independent living is such where some of those people drive. The assisted living and the memory care, those tenants do not drive. And the parking requirements and the traffic generation rates are based on visitors. So we can get into that. But the independent living folks can actually drive. And our city code does not have a specific parking ratio. Staff feels, and we've looked at other requirements and other projects, 1.3 parking spaces per unit. It seems to be a reasonable amount. Marv, you probably deal with parking anyway. That's kind of what we see, and I think that's consistent with the ITE manual. The project proposes 2 access points off Pioneer Parkway. You can see they're approximately 1,100 feet apart between the 2 access points. The interior streets will all proposed as public streets, meet the city's public street standards. Back in February, you remember when we were considering the other assisted living project down here in the valley, density was an issue, particularly to a couple of councilmen. And so the city adopted as a temporary regulation what we call a density equivalency. I don't know if you remember that, and at that time it was stated that for each unit that had its own kitchen facilities, we would treat those as a standard residential unit. But for those units that didn't have their own, that had to rely on the dining facility, which this unit has, among other things, dining facility, salon, Jim can probably tell us a lot more. It has a fitness room and a number of things. But anyway, for those units that rely on the dining facility, the density was 2 of these assisted living would equal 1 standard unit. And in this case, because they're dealing with 23.5 acres, those ratios may be of interest, but they don't even come into play, because even if we consider every one of their units to be a standard unit, that's 158 units. And if you divide that by the 23.6 acres, that comes to a density of 6.7. And as you may recall, in the PD residential zone, the base density is about 8 units per acre. Could be bumped up to 12 under the density bonus. So I realized on my copy, I didn't even end up finishing the density equivalency because I wasn't sure how many of their units had kitchen facilities, but it's really not a relevant point because, again, even if we consider them all to be standard units, their density only comes to 6.7 units per acre. The architecture, I think, is impressive. I'm not going to spend time. I'm going to let Jim go through and kind of point out the architecture behind these units. But before we get to that, let me just see. The open space requirement, they do exceed that. Our ordinance requires at least 30% of the project area to be in open space. Their open space, according to their site plans, approximately 46% of the site. Traffic, a little bit about the expected traffic that'd be generated from this project. All the vehicles do access Pioneer Parkway, as you can see, out of one of the 2 access points. The ITE trip generation manual, and unfortunately I just had access to the 7th edition, but there's out now a 10th edition. It's the Bible of traffic engineers and how they estimate trips. The 7th edition, again, I apologize, that's a little bit dated, but the estimated assisted living units, which include the memory care, would generate about 2.6 trips per bed per day. And that's based on, again, estimated staff and visitors because the actual tenants don't drive. So they have 32 assisted living, including the 32 assisted living plus the 14 memory care. That's 46 units. That would estimate 111 trips per day for staff and visitors. The independent living does generate some traffic. Again, from the manual I had access to, they estimated 3.6 trips per day, which could amount to 255 trips per day for the proposed 69 senior independent living units. And that would take in those units that are in this central two-story facility plus the 5 threeplexes. The rest of the homes, in terms of parking and trip generation, they're standard homes, basically occupied by seniors. And they have 2-car garages and trip generation. I'm not sure, Marv, maybe you can help me. I think that's in the 7 to 8.
I think it's 9.5 or
Is
something.
it for the seniors?
Well, just for normal residential. home.
Yeah, for normal residential. And I think if we looked at, and I believe the ITE has a senior housing, I'm not sure, but I think it'd be somewhat less than that. But anyway,
So will these be, I'm sorry for asking the question if you
Sure.
already answered it. This is going to be 55 and older, the whole development then?
yes,
Okay.
the entire project. And we also, I think, have a traffic engineer if we want to get into more traffic issues from Hell's Engineering, which is a traffic engineering firm, specializes in these traffic impact studies. They provided a report, and it's available to anybody. I brought out just a couple of facts from their summary, their executive summary statement. They analyzed Pioneer Parkway both with the project and without the project. And they're estimating that in 2026, with the project, these access points, and let me make sure I get this straight, along with, then we'll expected to have a traffic signal at Red Mountain Drive, the intersection of Red Mountain and Pioneer Parkway. Says the findings are that in 2026, with the proposed project, Pioneer Parkway and the intersection with Red Mountain Drive will have an acceptable level of service. Their estimate is that in 2026, with the project, Pioneer Parkway at the access points will operate at a level of service A, which is the best, which is currently that way, and that the intersection of Red Mountain Drive will operate at a level of service B, which is also very good. So according to the traffic engineers, they feel Pioneer Parkway will function very adequately. In fact, in an excellent fashion, given those level of service levels. Again, when we added up all their parking requirements, it comes to 109 for all these forms of assisted living. The applicant has 113 parking spaces according to their text and site plan. These detached units all have their 2-car garage and a 20-foot driveway. So I guess in summary, we feel it's a very well-designed project, that both the site layout, the design of the individual living units. Maybe with that, I'm going to have Jim explain a little bit their architecture and the design of these units. And then if you have questions, we can jump into that. Jim, do you want to kind of walk them through I guess they also have them on the screen too. So.
Sure. That's great. Well, thank you everybody for hearing our project tonight. Pretty excited about this one. I'm Jim Peterson, and I'll kind of go through the different levels of care and how it operates. And if I get too far into the weeds, just stop me and say you heard enough. So, like we already heard, this main building is going to be independent living, mostly independent and assisted with a bit of memory care. And then these in the back, these are three plexes that those will also be part of this project, this I should say community here. The people that want a little more independence, they still want part of the program, but they don't want to live in the facility. So they can have a unit detached. So far as the facility, obviously in this Entrada area, it's going to be a higher end senior living, and that's why you can see how it's very spread out. It's not like some of the ones more in the city. You have like 5 stories of senior living apartment style. This is very spread out. And then for amenities, of course, it's full meals, kitchen, bistros, spa, gym, fitness programs. There's a lot of different programs that they run in the facility, activities. That's a big part of it. And then all of these homes here, this is basically, if you're familiar with active adult or 55 plus community, and they have their own clubhouse here, so which will have like a couple sports courts, clubhouse, and swimming pool, etc. So these people actually purchase their home and own the home, but they'll have a social membership to the facility. So what that means is they're welcome to use the spa, fitness, general store, restaurant, meals, all that. They can also order meals that can be delivered to their home also, and they can have support from the facility for like nurse call, things like that. So what we're really doing is what you call continuum of care. So a lot of folks will move in here sometimes once that becomes too much for them, either they go to this independent or into independent into here, then to assisted, then we have the memory care option also. As far as the layout of the site, we spent quite a bit of time on that, walking the site, and architect and civil engineer, which we have both of them on the call tonight too, if we have questions that I can't answer. I'm sure you will. But the idea is to only be 2-story on this main facility. And we buffered the main facility with all these homes around the edge. So adjacent to any lots or residential is the single-story residence. It's not like we put a 3 or 4-story right in someone's backyard. And this is a lower part of the site too, so it's kind of tucked in there. We think it's pretty nice. There's a lot of open space. This trail system, it'll connect into here so that people can use this biking, walking path. And then we brought it in here, and we left this open, so this is open walking paths, etc. in that too. With that, I'll kind of leave it open and if you have any questions.
Are these 55 and older, are they for sale or are they going to be owned by the development?
The 55 plus homes, all here, they're for sale.
They are for sale.
Purchase them, yeah. And then they can have a social membership with the facility to get the amenities of the facility. As far as safety, meals, activities, all that.
And so planning commission will know that this is proposed to be built all in one phase. So all the public streets and stuff will go on at one time,
All together?
all together.
Okay.
Yep.
That was my next question, so. I didn't look at the overall plan on the main building. What's the overall height on the main building? Do you know? Architect.
Less than 35 feet, 34.
I didn't find it in the
I
detail.
can see it.
Okay.
It says 31.
31 feet?
Yep.
I didn't look
I think
that
the
close.
city is it 34?
35.
35.
Oh, here it is.
And we're
I
less
just found
than,
it.
we're definitely
Thank you.
less than that.
And they did put it toward the east side of the lot, the higher, because we do have that lava bluff that sort of steps up and sort of helps. take
Basically,
up
if you look
the-
at that, where that's at, it's where the gravel pit
Oh, yeah.
area is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
just
that's
to
why
the
you're
east.
meaning that it's the
In
lower
front of the
section.
gravel
Yeah. Yep.
pits like here, this is being raised up a lot through here. So these homes will see right over the top of that
Yeah.
facility.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, you can
lava
see that
roll
work
to the-
happening.
This,
Yeah.
it's amazing. If you walk around here, there's hardly a house that can even see that facility once it's built,
That's awesome.
besides our own homes in the community.
Right.
They had a neighborhood meeting with, I think, most of the Entrada residents back in February. And they said it had a good turnout. Meeting was here and apparently it was quite well received, according to at least the applicant's statement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've heard that.
Well, we
We've
heard
heard
that
that-
last
we've heard
time, and
that
then the
before.
next public hearing, there was 1 million people, so it's good to not have that problem.
Well, I looked through this and I actually spent quite a bit of time looking at this. I'm a huge fan of these types of projects. I think this, what was the word you used for, it's not, you didn't say aging in place, but what?
It's a continuum of
Continuum
care,
of care.
is how they refer to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think this is an awesome project for our community. I was trying to figure out which one of those would work best for my wife and I actually, and I can see that Mark's going to need one that's in the big building.
You
So,
might need the memory care.
yeah.
Well,
you
that
talking
happens a lot is, what happens a lot is you'll get couples that maybe they're here together for years, then they go into assisted, maybe him or her ends up in a higher level of care, but at
Yep.
least they're still in the same facility.
Mhm.
Combinations
Yeah.
like that.
My mother was living in a similar development in Mason until COVID hit last year. So I think the continuum of care concept, we're seeing more and more because of the memory care need for that aging population, right?
Yeah. And we're doing some interesting things, probably doesn't have much to do with development, but we're doing some interesting things as far as technology in these facilities too. We have special tablets that are built not by us, but it's by Status Solutions. And they're built for the older generation. And on those, you got all the activities that are happening, the meals, any news that's happening in the area. It's all populated, and the staff can manage if there's any type of emergency or anything. These people hold on to these all the time. You can guide, help, all that type of stuff. Nurse call, whatever you need from these. We even have technology actually that's and this is by choice because not everybody wants it, like far as wander management, all that type of stuff. Some people need it, some people don't, some like it, some don't. But they also have ones that you can actually even track people's gait, right? So when they're walking and you can identify someone's gait almost as clearly as a fingerprint. It matches the person. So a lot of times these people, like, they'll fall and but a lot of times that can be picked up earlier, right? So they're wearing a bracelet, it'll ding to our staff, say, hey, so-and-so, we noticed that, you might not be stable on your feet. Can you please sit down till we come see you? And, typical question would, did you remember to take your medication this morning? Things like that. Like, it really helps, you can save a fall or an
That was
injury.
That was a cool link in your information that you gave us.
Yeah.
To see that real technology was.
Yeah. And the communication technology too, like putting in the Zoom rooms, because a lot of people, especially with COVID, and if we get another outbreak, but it made it, technology get forced forward far as a lot of these people, their family don't live close by anyway. So instead of looking at a little phone, we have Zoom rooms where you go in, it's like a family room setup, big screen TV, mics, speakers, everything. So take the virtual experience and make it as real as possible. Some kind of neat stuff we're doing like that.
Yeah, I was gonna.
All right.
Ask that.
Anything else?
So did you address these two larger lots with custom homes on them on the west side? Upper
These here
west?
too?
Purple.
Yes.
So with the homes, most of these people, of course, are downsizing. That's why they're smaller lots, smaller homes. These homes start off at 1,800 square feet. And in this area, 18 to 2,600 feet. But we had these two lots up here that we'll do a little bigger, maybe even 3,000 feet. So bigger homes, you know, we might get some people that want to come in here, especially out of the Entrada community, and could be coming out of a 10,000-foot home. So 3 is pretty small. So yeah, so it's just part of this program. It's just separated because of the lay of the land. And being higher end homes up here, there it's a nice area up there. You don't have anybody in that corner.
Do we take
Sounds like it.
public?
Open the
No
public.
other questions? All right, well, let's open the public hearing then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
See how that goes.
Well presented, by the way.
Thank you.
You guys did a good job putting this all together. It's nice when it's concise like that. Well, with that, we will open the public hearing. For anyone that has any comments on this project, you can step up, tell us your name and your address, and then the floor is yours.
Awfully nice floor plan on that big one back in the corner.
Anybody online? Nothing. As many comments as we got on the
Last one?
last one, I was expecting more.
The reason is.
Well, like I was telling Bob, location.
Yeah.
I thought it was because people in the Heights really love the elderly.
Yeah, I think so.
The Heights and Entrada. Yeah, right
Yeah.
there. in between.
Okay.
Was anyone at the meeting they had here with the residents? I mean, was,
Actually, that's probably that's exactly what I was thinking. We had a pretty good turnout at the neighborhood meeting, and we did it Zoom also. So yeah.
Did you
we
present
answered.
this data to them there? So
Yeah,
they
we
saw
didn't have
this
the
real-
material boards. We had all the pictures, the site plan,
See that?
and then we went through the whole presentation.
That's the
of-
difference right there.
Yeah. And we had a lot of people on Zoom, and yeah, we answered quite a few questions, but it was a good meeting, really positive.
How many people do you think you had here in person?
How many did we have?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to
If I were to
guess.
guess, there might have been 20 people, 20 neighbors.
And on Zoom, do you have any idea about how many you had?
I think we have more on Zoom.
Another 30, 40, you think, maybe?
I'm guessing, but I might say 20 and 30,
Okay.
something like that. I might be high, might be
Pretty good number.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, my theory is if you get that,
Okay.
you can go
Well, then I'm going to close the public hearing
11 if you-
and we will go to general business item number 2 and talk about a recommendation for the city council. I like it. I like it a lot.
Well, it's right in line with some of the things that we talked about with the previous one.
Yes.
And I think this commission knows my position on the senior living. So you understand my family, significant senior living businesses throughout the United States. So I think that it's a good neighbor. I think it provides opportunities for service for our youth. And I think it provides a good place to put our aging population, which I have one of those that I'm dealing with right now because we took her out of where she was at and haven't put her back anywhere yet. So, but I just really think it's a great project. I think your location's good. And the fact that you thought about the lay of the land and the things like that, that bodes well and represents well your intent, in my opinion. So I think it's a great thing. And I think the recommendation needs to be there.
Okay.
A concern that I have, I love where it's at. This is my neighborhood. And so I experience the traffic through there. And I'd be interested to know what staff recommends as far as a decel lane. I drive Serenity coming out of St. George. I make a right-hand turn off of Serenity trying to get on the Pioneer. And there's kind of a blind shoulder right there. And you look left, you look back right, you start to proceed. And by the time you take your foot off the brake and hit the gas, somebody is almost there and you're having to lock it up. I drove this a couple different times today and pulled off numerous sides of the road to look at that. At first, I thought the top entrance and the ingress egress, the top one closer to the hill as we went up, I thought that would be a giant blind spot, but it wasn't because that hill is so long. As long as people aren't going 60 miles an hour, which it seems like sometimes you get on that road. But the other one on the corner is going to be a problem, especially with homes there. I pulled off on the south side and the north side and got out and walked it. And I just, from what I experience every day, and so I turned down Lava Cove coming from Harmon's, and they now have that decel lane that they just added, where they just added a handful of a cul-de-sac in there. It has helped, but I still almost get rear-ended trying to get over into that decel lane. So have we talked about that? Has staff talked about that on what we're going to do for the shoulder for a decel lane or for a turning lane to help getting on and off of Pioneer? Because it's only going to get worse with Black Desert and some of these subdivisions that are going in west of there with traffic.
My understanding from staff's discussion is there'll be a turning lane and a decel lane on this project. They'll have to put in the full improvements along Pioneer. They also said that they were going to put a serpentine wall similar to Entrada along the living area, and in front of the other area would be fully landscaped. I think they have a landscape drawing there too.
So will that wall go up to the sidewalk? Because that only makes that corner, it's probably a 4 foot setback, because that's only going to make that corner tougher to look back to the west if we're trying to make a left-hand turn to get onto Pioneer to head into St. George.
Yeah, they have one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Corey said, that I think it'll be a decel lanes needed at both of those entrances, but I think we ought to see if the representative from Hell's Engineering here, traffic engineer, could maybe give us their thoughts on that.
Is there plans for that to be a 4-lane road at some point, or is that just can always stay a 2-lane road?
I don't know that that's.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be a 4-lane road. It's wide at Red Mountain and Pioneer, but going through the lava, unless there's, to the south, the city owns the property and it's natural lava. I don't know that there'll ever be any development along that south portion of Pioneer. So unless there's some MPO funding or something to make it wider.
And once you hit 200 north in St. George, you couldn't widen that. It'd be impossible to widen. So I can't imagine that ever happening.
Well, and a couple of years ago, I asked Jack Taylor that question, and Jack, of course, has left the city now, but he said that St. George was not in favor of making that because there's an elementary school right on that corner. And so, if St. George wasn't going to make it a 4-lane, then it wouldn't make much sense. But I don't know that we have a really final answer on that issue, because Santa Clara is going to be in desperate need for some east-west traffic as, congestion on Santa Clara Drive grows. But
We're already there.
yeah, we're pretty much there.
Bob, if I could make a comment, remember that guy that came and talked to us about traffic flow and city planning maybe a couple of years ago? Some guru you guys brought in, city planning guy.
Yeah.
He one of the things he said that I thought was really interesting. He works all over the country. I think he was from Denver, if I remember right.
I wonder if that was Jeff Winston.
Jeff Winston.
Probably.
Could have
But
been.
he said that contrary to popular belief, when you widen those roads, you don't necessarily move more traffic, it just moves faster.
It gets faster.
And it's interesting, I was reading somewhere, some article, I can't even remember where now, but how they were talking about how they put these bulbs or something at a lot of intersections where they kind of protrude out into the road a little bit to actually slow that whole
Yeah.
thing down. So I think,
Yeah.
if he's saying A and B on this with these traffic flows, I can appreciate what Curtis is saying, that there's some tough way, things getting in and out, but I'm afraid if we open it up, it's going to get even faster. If we put 4 lanes, I personally would be opposed, and I
Yeah.
travel that quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I do think they need a deceleration lane. Like Curtis was talking
Yeah.
about.
As I was looking at it, that was my only comment. I didn't see any problem with the traffic report but just having decel lanes and left turn lanes
Yeah.
be really help the safety right there. I think without it, you'd have some accidents and some of those accidents would be pretty high velocity.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I suspect, I don't know if we can get the Hills Engineering rep to make some comments, but we will be seeing this again or a few times, because they're going to plat this as a for sale subdivisions. That means a preliminary plat, final plat, that process. So we'll have some opportunities to look at it, but I don't know,
Yeah, Commissioners? Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. This is Ryan Hells from Hells Engineering. I apologize. I just turned on my video camera so you can see me as well. Unfortunately, you have to see me, but thank you for letting me be with you tonight. First of all, I want to thank staff for their presentation. They did a wonderful job in explaining the traffic study. I've been to at least 2,000 planning commission and city council meetings, and that was a very great presentation. Very well done. If I might, I'll just talk about the project very quickly in a nutshell. I know your night will get long if I talk too much, so I'll be brief in my comments. When we look at the traffic volumes on Pioneer Parkway, I'm looking at the 2026 traffic volumes that come out of the figure. I think it's figure 6 in our report. That's on page 25 of 42 of the PDF. When I look at the traffic volumes out there, we're approximating about 8 to 9,000 ADT. That's average daily trips in year 2026. That's still within a 2-lane roadway scenario as far as capacity is concerned. Typically what we see is we'll see 2-lane roads go to a 3-lane road before they ever get to 4. And oftentimes we don't generally go to a 4-lane because we want the safety that comes with the 2-way left turn lane. So in this case, when we're talking about safety of the accesses and moving people in and out, I think it's wise to choose, if you want the accel and decel lane, or the decel lanes coming in that westbound direction, we have 9 vehicles that would be entering off of the east access, and off the west access, 4 vehicles during that morning peak hour is what we analyzed. Of course, in the evening peak hour, we would anticipate that we would have a similar type of number, maybe up to 15 on the east access and 8 on the west access. So certainly it becomes more of an access management criteria and how you want to approach that. If you were to look at the UDOT criteria on their roadways, they generally have a little bit wider roadways. They're working more with major collectors and arterials. They would likely look at the safety measure, what kind of sight distance is available, and I think that's been discussed already, and which I really like the staff presentation on. In looking at sight distance, a very precarious situation that you want to make sure that everybody is safe. Adding those right turn deceleration lanes, I think, is wise, and I think it makes a lot of sense in this area. Any questions that I might be able to address beyond that?
Great job.
Confirmed what we were thinking.
Thank you, commissioners, and thank you for your service. I served as a planning commissioner for 3 years, and I know the time and effort it takes. Thank you for serving.
He mentioned the left turn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Man, how'd you get out of it in 3 years?
You know what? They asked me to re-up, and I couldn't. I was too busy going to these meetings.
He faked his own death.
The challenge is we're always going to have traffic issues.
Yeah.
We already have them.
Like Bob said, I think we're going to see this again when it's final plat, right? Well, preliminary and final.
2 more times.
So,
Well, I think it's important too, just when he was talking, it made me think about grandma and grandpa pulling out of there, right? So that's the issue we have, is this isn't a bunch of, young skilled drivers. This is people like me and Mark that are trying to figure our way back to the grocery store.
They're going to be driving a big Lincoln, so the safety will be a little higher.
So is this something that where we're going to see this again to record the final plat? Is this something that we could make a recommendation that that final plat include a turning lane and a decel lane?
I think so.
Because there's enough room, because if you look back in, on the east side of Serenity, they have a turning lane right there. And it doesn't look like that road necks down at all when it turns into Pioneer. And so I think if they just kept it, there's plenty of room, but rather than have to make a change later, maybe we just include that now and then we don't have to go back later. Because other than that, it's a great product, great area, great idea, and everything needs. That's the only concern I have.
I think it's appropriate. I think Ryan Hales indicated that the decels were needed and would be good. And so I think we'd go with that recommendation and expect to see that on the preliminary plat and the final.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then. Should we make that recommendation?
Are you ready for a motion? Yeah. That went so quick.
And
It was-
recap that. The code says for parking uses that aren't specifically mentioned, one of them is independent living. Nursing home covers the assisted living, memory care and all that, but we don't have independent. So the parking chapter says the planning commission, in those cases where the use is not specifically identified, should, make the decision on that. I think it'd be good, to get that on the record, that you feel that the
So did-
1.3 spaces, say, per independent living unit.
For the building, for the individual units, there's 2 spots per unit. Is that
For all those.
2-car garages?
units, they're just standard. They have 2-car garages, 20-foot driveways.
They're not included in the count.
It's the central 2-story and those 5 3-plexes where the independent living, we don't, like say, in our code, we don't have a specific standard. So it authorizes the planning commission to approve something that, where they doesn't even have to go to the council. It's just the planning commission shall determine what our appropriate level is.
You said 1.3?
Yeah, 1.3 per unit.
And will that need to be 2 separate motions? It's a part of
right.
that motion.
I will go ahead and make a motion that we recommend to the city council approval of the project plan for the Point at Entrada Senior Living Community. Acknowledging that the parking spots are shown at or greater than 1.3 stalls per bed
For independent living unit.
for the independent living unit.
I'll second that.
And are we going to condition on the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well-
condition on the road.
With an additional condition that the Excel and decel lanes be shown on the subsequent plans.
Yeah, there's plenty of room for them.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
You'll second?
Mhm.
All right, I've got a recommendation from Marv and a second from Curtis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're all done. Carry on. You're welcome.
Great project.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for the presentation.
We love it. Well done.
I can, Corey, confirm this. This go to the city council probably May 26th.
All right, looks like we have a third item on general business, which is a request for approval of electric message boards within the proposed monument sign for Buck's Ace Hardware, which is the giant building located on the southeast corner of Rachel Drive.
Sliding in there. I figured you would.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Harward. I represent ACE. I'm also account executive with Yesco. Buck couldn't make it here tonight. He said he would try to join us via the Zoom there. What we'd like to present tonight is the 2 monument signs that we have drawn up and shown on the site map. And there's also another page there that kind of shows a kind of a 3D rendering of approximately what they would look like as you were going down the road. We understand that there may be some concern about these being too bright or a little obnoxious for the neighborhood. There's four things that we like to achieve when we put these types of signs in, especially in this type of an area. The first and foremost is to build goodwill with the community. We want to make sure that we don't offend the neighbors, and I know that Buck feels the same way, because these are going to be his customers, and he wants to keep the peace as well. And so that's the main thing that we want to achieve with this. Second thing is that we want to ensure the legibility of the display without it being too bright, of course. Being able to get the advertising across without being obnoxious. The third thing would be to increase life expectancy of the electric display components, and the fourth would be to conserve energy. We feel like the way that we have this drawn and spec'd out is that we can achieve all four of these goals. And we have met the criteria as far as the code goes for sizing and the placement of the signs, and everything that is concerned with that. At this point, I guess I would just entertain any questions that I can answer.
So in your presentation, you show the night rendering. Will the rest of that sign go dead above it, or will it?
Well, that's the message center is on the top and the ID cabinet is on the bottom.
Right.
So the ACE, both signs will be lit at night, and the only thing lit during the day would be the EMC, the electronic message center.
So what happens to the electronic message center at night?
Well, there's options. There's three things we can do. We can leave it on. We can program it to dim down, or we can program it to shut off at a certain time. So there are ways around, if somebody has issues with it staying on all night, and that's, there's definitely options there.
Yeah. I knew what they were. I just wanted to make sure we heard it.
Yeah. We can dim it down. We can set it to shut off at a certain time, say 10 o'clock. You can program it to shut clear down and then come back on in the morning. Yeah.
And the third one.
Yeah, turn it off altogether, dim down.
Which isn't reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Turn it off all the way, in my opinion, is not reasonable.
Yeah, generally with these signs, it's not common practice to turn them clear off. And in the location that they're located, the lay of the land, we've kind of looked it over. As you can see, there's an enclosure over there on Pioneer on that one end that's going around some communication equipment. That will block the majority of any light coming off that sign that you probably won't even see until you get to that corner of that lot. So it won't affect anything that way. The one on Rachel, I'm trying to remember if there was I think there's a trash enclosure there somewhere on that other corner that may not show on this rendering, but there's also a block wall there, and it's far enough out toward the road that just bird's eye view looks like that it won't affect any of the neighbors coming up the street. Yeah, there is. There's a trash. It shows it on the site map there.
It's on the back of the Reed's property line. Yep.
I was going to go back and look and see what the dollar store was doing with their signs. I think they shut them off.
They do. They do. At one close of business, they turn them off. I believe that was part of the minutes of that.
Yeah.
But what about Mountain America Credit Union?
So, and that was a question I have for Corey. Did we ever discuss amending and specifying our sign ordinance? Because I know that Mountain America has come up among concerned citizens on what an eyesore that is. Did we ever discuss that?
Not to my knowledge. I know that this request is before you because the Santa Clara Sign Code section 17.44 180E states that the planning commission will review sign requests for any type of sign not specifically identified in the sign ordinance. Electronic message boards are not addressed in the Santa Clara ordinance, except that 1744-080 freestanding signs like pole signs states that staff or planning commission may approve any type of reader board as part of a freestanding sign on the east end of Santa Clara Drive outside the historical district. Electronic message signs are not listed in the type of signs, nor are they listed in the list of prohibited signs. However, within the Santa Clara Historic District, electronic signs are not allowed. So this request proposes to place 2 message boards within their proposed monument sign along Pioneer and Rachel. They're 10 by 9 foot wide, 10 foot tall, 9 foot wide, with an actual sign area of 48.3 square feet.
That's the 2 combined.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This size is within the allowable size limitation of the code. The code's 10 foot tall and 12 foot wide with a maximum sign area of 100 square feet. So the issue of electronic reader boards within those within those monument signs. Also, the proposed wall sign attached to the buildings are within the size limits and were shown on the building rendering as part of the project plan approval a few months ago.
If I could interject, Curtis, just to answer your question a little bit. The issue with Mountain America is that that sign is inside of their building. So they're kind of bending the rules there. So I'm not saying that's a good sign or anything. I'm just saying that's how they kind of got away with that. Is that's not necessarily a monument sign. That's just you're looking inside the window at their TV.
No, there's actually a monument sign there.
There is a monument
Well,
sign
there are
out on the
monuments.
road. It's on
Roadway.
Rachel, isn't it?
Do we have that
But
picture?
you're talking about the sign.
The electronic sign.
Yeah, that's inside the building.
So a 10 by 9 square footage of the sign fits within our sign ordinance.
It does. The signs over there at Harmon's are a little bit smaller. These will be a little bit larger, but yeah, they do fit our sign ordinance as modified. I think we modified that maybe 1.5 years ago or something.
So I've had a couple of comments, commissioners, from neighbors and other people. I live a few blocks from there, and the biggest thing I've heard is, besides the nuisance of a sign like this, is the safety issues where they become distracting. There's a Lava Ridge school over there, the intermediate school. There's a lot of traffic with kids walking and biking over there. So that's the concerns that I've heard from neighbors.
So this is a picture I took this week of the Mountain America Credit Union sign. And it is a monument sign. It's out front. It's 2 foot behind it would meet the sign ordinance other than an electronic reader board, which is the top portion. 2 foot behind the side, the property, 2 foot behind the sidewalk on the property line.
Is that the one you're talking about?
That's the one that I've had.
Okay. Okay, I thought you were talking about
The one
that
but
beast.
the one that people are upset about, that they're complaining about, is the one that's inside. the
Inside.
building,
Yeah.
Inside the
Not
building.
the outside signs.
Yeah, that's inside the building. Yeah,
Yeah,
That's the one that that
behind a glass.
comes up, is the what's happened on the inside.
Yeah.
Which-
That's not 10 feet tall though, is it?
No.
Oh,
This
this
is
one.
quite
There's no way. I'll bet it's
a bit
6.
smaller.
What was the old, did we increase the height on the monument signs on 1.5 years ago when we changed that? They were always 10 feet?
I can't remember.
A 10-foot by 9-foot is a very big sign. So the second part, you have to think about what is an appropriate size sign in the rest of the sentence. Now you have a sign that meets the, big flat application within the limits of the ordinance. But,
Size-wise, but not,
Yeah.
size-wise,
Yeah.
and there'll be a sign. But you got to take what's the proper scale for a sign.
But what's before us right now is what really matters.
Right.
Yes.
And in all honesty, and looking at the size and the presentation that Yesco put together, I just don't see the problem, and I definitely don't see the safety issue you're bringing up. If you got safety issues, there's plenty other places on that street.
Hey,
for safety.
Yeah, we deal in both on premise and off premise. So we deal in the billboard industry as well. And so we're very conscious about the UDOT regulations and our signs on I-15 to make sure that they don't cause a traffic hazard. And if they did, we'd get shut down pretty quick. So
Hey, if I remember right, on the outside, these streets are tree lined. Is that right? We have a setback sidewalk with a planter, or we have raised planters?
Planners.
Planners.
So how is this going to fit in with, if you look at the signs on the 3D model, there's planters in each side. So it's going to those trees are going to grow up and block those signs. I'm just interjecting, thinking that a shorter sign would actually be better because you can look under a tree, under the foliage. Your head height on a tree is like 6-8 feet. Anything higher than that, it kind of is blocked.
the planters are 2 feet tall, and that's why we put the base at 2 feet so that we could get up over the planter boxes. The actual faces are only, 6'5" above that. So we wouldn't want to go any lower than the 2 feet for sure.
Okay.
And then I'll also interject that the homes that are along the back side of that, that would have in any kind of situation, they got trees all across the back of their properties that block their view. I mean, they're not seeing it anyway. Let's be honest. Let's be fair about the whole thing. The people that were complaining about some of that, the whole backyard's already blocked from the back by the old trees on their own property. So they're not going to see it.
Personally, I think that the one on Pioneer is just fine. The one on Rachel is probably a little too big, but because it meets the ordinance, I don't have any other objections than just, I think it's too big.
And my feeling with the size is you go bigger when you're at a 4 or 5 laned road because you're trying to let everybody see it. We're talking about a residential area really off Rachel. Do we need a sign that big for everyone to see? We're not trying to have them see from St. George. That is a big sign.
These message centers, the visible opening on these is only 3 by 7. And that's relatively small for that type of sign. We calculated out the kind of the distance that, we would need to have it be seen adequately as you're coming around the corner, coming down the street. And they're definitely not too big. They're just about right in there where it needs to be legible for the people coming down the street.
Is the actual readable?
Yeah. So you'll notice there's a lot of decorative stuff on that monument that is not part of the sign face.
But yeah, just for the aesthetic of it to tie back to the property.
And I think across the street, the Harmon signs are 10 by 7 with a 2-foot base. I think there's a picture of those also in the packet. You want to see a comparison? There's I don't think I took a picture of the Dollar Tree because it was just
On the building was.
They're building
it was
only.
smaller
They don't have
scale.
a small monument.
They have a monument. but
Yeah, on the
not-
back side. It's smaller, it's not.
So there's a Harmon's gas sign there. You can see the size of that.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, they have 3 on their site. This one at the gas entrance. They have another one just up
Yeah, that's right.
on Rachel at the other entrance, and then they have one on Pioneer. So the other ones have reader. This one, of course, has the fuel stop and the electronic message on how much the fuel prices is. The other ones have 4 spots where it advertises what is in the complex. So you'll see probably maybe some tag and go or mobetas or swag on those. But these are just a little bit smaller than the ones that's proposed. These are 10 by 7 with the base.
But if
10
you were,
wide,
to the
7
natural
tall.
human eye, you're not going to notice enough difference.
I guess to me, that sign is reasonable. I think that these meet what ordinances we have. I regret that they think they have to put video screens on them or electronic screens.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to run video all the time. It'll probably just be an ad that'll stay up there static and then, maybe flip to another ad. I don't think their intention is to put, anything flashy up there.
Or that they think they have to put electronic. It seems like that Harmon's is tasteful, big. It's a bigger sign, similar to yours, but not a lot of activity, distracting activity. But we don't have anything, I'm hearing, we don't have any thing in the ordinance right now that prevents it. It's a little bit open-ended, so.
Just somewhat of a silent issue in our code. So, we get into this section 1744, 180, signs not otherwise identified, as planning commission shall review all requests for any type of sign not, specifically identified. So they're not prohibited, that they're not necessarily, they're not approved. They're in limbo a little bit. That's kind of the problem with the ordinance. Except for the historic district, it says specifically not approved, not allowed within the historic district.
I think that electronic sign is something we need to look at and at future meetings and discuss that to make an addendum to the ordinance, because
It'd be a lot better if it had an NBA game on it or something. I'm sure the technology is there for that, right?
That's what the guys at Yesco do when they, on their rest.
When they're testing it out.
Yeah.
That's their
Jazz
bench
games
test.
there.
They're watching games on their own signs. Well, I think, I don't know if we really have. I mean, really the size is what everybody's, maybe I'm just reading into a lot of it, but in my mind, the size is what didn't fit well with me on Rachel. But the thing that we're really talking about here is whether or not it can be electronic message board. And once you get the size in bright light, to me, it doesn't make that much difference. So I'm for it, unless we can reduce the size on Rachel.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm not that strong against the size either. It just seems big.
I get where you're coming from. It's within the size limits of the ordinance that we have.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot we can say about that. Once it's a big sign, it's a big sign. I don't necessarily care what's on it particularly, or whether or not it's a message board or not. A big sign's just a big sign. I like the idea of dimming it down late at night, but after, even if it's 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, well after hours, I like that idea. So it's not.
Flashing in people's
Yeah.
houses.
I was going to ask that question, if would it be appropriate to have something like that in the motion that
Yes.
we'd recommend that it dim down at a
Whatever hour.
10 or 11 or something.
Yeah.
I like the idea that when the store's closed, you dim it down.
Yeah.
Right.
When the stores close, you dim it down. I like that too.
That's fair.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think that would happen.
Okay, so this, whatever we do tonight, we are not the last. If Buck doesn't like it, he can go to city council and get whatever he wants. Huh? Who knew
It's
that
on
could
the
happen?
agenda, too.
Yeah, we've
Your
seen that
approval.
happen before.
Sorry.
Isn't that
being-
just the general gist of what we're doing? If they
Yeah.
don't like what we say, they can go to the city.
All right, then we can say whatever we want.
Yeah, let's not drag this out.
Yeah. Well, there's a history. Okay. So can I have a recommendation? Does anybody would like to make one? Or
A motion.
a motion? It is a motion for approval is what we're looking for.
This is one of the rare times it is approval,
Okay,
correct?
yep. It's not, yep. Okay. And we want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve the sign as shown and presented in the documents here today and make a suggestion, not a requirement, that the sign be dimmed as 10 PM at night on a regular basis.
I like that motion. Do I have a
So
second?
the only thing I would wonder if you'd be comfortable with is to modify that. So during store hours.
No, I won't be comfortable with that because I think you're dictating to a businessman what he can and can't do with his building.
Okay.
Suggestion of 10 PM is very reasonable because if I recall, we made a suggestion and Dollar Tree offered to turn off their sign when they closed the store.
Mhm.
We didn't tell them they had to turn off their sign.
That's correct.
So I don't think that it's fair and equitable to do that. And I think we've created enough mess with this, not withstanding all the other stuff. I think you just, 10 PM is a suggestion.
So I guess I thought James was asking for a suggestion of business hours, not necessarily a requirement, but is
Yeah.
it, did you say? requirement?
No, it was a suggestion that we modify it to business hours.
I don't, my motion stands as stated.
Okay. So I have a motion from Mark
I'll second it.
and a second from Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
That's one against, two against. Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe you can go talk to Buck about what we talked about tonight and the recommendation that he dim it down at 10 o'clock, but there was a couple people that would prefer it be dimmed at the end of business time, hours.
Okay.
And let's see what he says. Okay?
Is he on?
Yeah, he's on Zoom.
Let's,
I guess at this point, it doesn't really matter.
Nope,
It's already done.
it's already done.
You can talk to the planning city council. If he doesn't.
If he doesn't like it, he'll just go to city council. Okay. Okay, thanks for your time tonight.
okay, so we're approved. We don't need to go any further then to the city council. We're good to go.
You're good.
Your mic's not working, so he
Okay.
probably didn't hear that.
Yell really loud.
Oh, he just went off. He doesn't want to say anything.
Okay.
You heard it was passed and
Guess
signed
that's the
off.
answer, huh?
Okay.
I'll talk to him.
All right. Thanks.
Thank
again.
you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kelly.
You bet.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 5 on the agenda, discussion items. You guys have any discussion items from council, from,
Just,
Staff?
we'll be bringing you some ordinance work. We have a retaining wall ordinance we want to be looking at. There's some other ordinance
Just
work.
approve the minute.
Obviously, we might bring this sign ordinance back. We should address electronic signs. I mean,
yeah,
it's restricted in the historical district, and it's not anywhere else. We should make a decision on that, size wise, and
If you're gonna do it, you need to do it quick because you're gonna have the same thing up the street.
try it.
Right there by
But I just, I
Quench
think,
and all those places.
I think we've allowed the fact that they're gonna have signs. And in today's world, that includes electronic message signs.
Correct.
by 7.
But here's what this, when I read the ordinance, their sign, when you combine the message with the other one, he says 48 square feet, right? The sign said, our ordinance says you could have 100 square feet of signage, and then the actual monument structure is even greater than 120. You could have 120 square foot, 10 by 12 structure, the sign being 100 square feet.
That's huge.
That's huge.
big.
That is
Is
way-
that,
Huge.
is that
Way too
per
big.
sign?
Nobody- Fortunately, nobody's come and asked for that because it'd be crazy large, but it just is a message that we ought to be
Well,
ratcheting that
I
down.
agree.
In the
sign-
ordinance,
signs
does
are-
that
Signs
specify?
are a tough and touchy issue
They
anyway.
are, no question about it.
And we know what's happened in our neighbor with the sign situation and why we have abandoned signs that are still up because they're grandfathered in. And I think, in my opinion, you're opening a can of worms.
Well, I think, you look at it, you try and be reasonable.
Yep.
Mhm.
And if you go out, we did a study of signs that are belong there. When this is built, that will be a good example of a 50 square foot signage on a 10 by 9. But think again, our ordinance allows for much bigger.
Double
Yeah.
that.
Double that.
Yeah,
almost.
exactly.
So
So maybe we got to ratchet it down to.
if we're gonna, in the relationship to ordinances, I think before we start looking at, when we do look at ordinances, we need to have information and data before the typical, so that I'm busy enough as it is, but to try and jam in enough reading when I only get the information a week before, unless I'm flying someplace, I don't have the time. So I think if we're gonna do ordinances and things like that, give us a little bit more time and let's have some discussion so we can learn what the true meanings of some of these things are, what they represent to people.
Hey, the good thing is you've got examples out there,
Mhm.
whether it's in Santa Clara, St. George, you know what the sign dimensions are. You can say, is that about right? Is it too big?
Mhm.
It's not-
Yeah.
not all that stuff.
Does it address multiple signs too? Because, if you add up all the signage, there's quite a bit on this particular one. Well, is there an ordinance against multiple signs? Like on Bucks, for instance, because he's got 2 signs instead of
It
one,
says one per frontage.
one per frontage.
So it's not talking about
Which-
100
which I
feet.
would think is typical.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Might I add one more thing to that thing about ordinances? Maybe when you share information about that with us, give us comparisons. Give us what other people are doing that so we can read that information too. I think that helps expand our knowledge. That's just my preference.
Okay. And with that, I guess we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on April 22nd. We just need a motion to approve those minutes.
I will motion to approve the minutes from April 22nd.
Second,
All right, I've got a
As
motion
presented.
from Curtis and a second from Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And with that, you are released on your own recognizance.